My loves, welcome back. All right, today we have the Hermit. The three decks that we're using are the Modern Love Tarot. We are using the Wild Unknown Tarot, and we are also using the original Rider Waite. So, in this card, we will start with the Rider Waite. This is a card of introspection. It is a card of going within. It's also a card of spiritual wisdom. This is represented by the mountains. You know that he is walking on this high elevation, and it speaks of how far he's come and how high he's risen in his wisdom. It's also, represented by his age and all of the seasons of life that he has experienced and survived and went through. The staff here represents the subconscious mind, and this represents connecting to the inner light and the inner spiritual wisdom. It is a six-sided star, which represents the Star of Solomon, which Solomon is also an initiate or an ascended master. So many of you may or may not know about the ancient mystery schools that are around the country. They are one of the forefront leaders in the studies of consciousness, along with the Monroe Institute. But so when they say the Seal of Solomon, is because it is a line of ancient initiates and their information that has been handed down since King Solomon. So maybe that's a synchronicity for someone. I highly recommend. This is also, so getting to that, this is a card of spiritual teachers, spiritual mentors, or becoming one yourself. So I'm being called to reference Dr. Teresa Bullard. She's an experimental physicist who has dedicated her life to bridging the gap between spirituality and science. And she has studied at both the Monroe Institute, who her mom is one of the lead people in, I believe. And she also has studied at the ancient mystery schools. So, finding, a spiritual teacher or really coming into your own spiritual wisdom is very significant with this card. But also it really can represent, connecting to your own light, going within your own shell, and kind of cutting out the external noise for a minute. It can also represent, going on a spiritual adventure. It can represent a solo journey or going, yeah, I'm just feeling like a solo trip, or there is this energy of temporary separation. Maybe you are in almost like a healing chamber with the Hermit card. There's lots of different ways to use this energy because it's almost like a swing card. It depends on a lot of the cards around it. But for me also too, like one thing to notice is the Hermit is being guided by his own light. So he might not always know how far ahead, he's going, but he knows what's right in front of him, and he's using that to sense and feel where he wants to go. And so that is where a lot of the inner light comes in, because it is about trusting too, because when you are aligned with that inner light and that inner trust, you understand that it is more energy to not trust the universe and to sit there and try to grapple and understand something that's greater than us than just to be in flow and be present. Yeah. And there's wisdom in that. There's absolute wisdom in that. So yeah, these are periods like the Hermit can really come like as a necessary pause to go within to help reconnect with light, or maybe a dimmed Agni Kai that you may feel like you have lost in its more shadow aspects. When the Hermit is reversed, it can be a sign that we're not taking enough time for ourselves. It can be a sign that we are almost over obligating ourselves to other people's needs. Maybe we are skipping our self-care. Maybe we are foregoing or not going on that trip or whatever it is that we need. But similarly, if you are someone who doesn't have a problem with taking alone time, i.e. me, Capricorns, but it could definitely mean, that you've reached a period of isolation. It could mean that you're almost, you're inhibiting yourself from experiencing new because you're just constantly in the same container. It's like the energy of being almost like a wallflower in its worst case scenario. You're just not outliving life. You're not doing the things. you know, and while taking pauses are so necessary and so important, uh, you also have to honor the periods of when it's time to go get out there and it's time to go experience things, and just really being in tune with that flow. Yeah, I'm also hearing too, like if the Hermit came out reversed, depending on what's around it, it could be a sign, you know, that you are putting too much emphasis on other people's wisdom, putting too much emphasis on other people's opinions, yeah, and needing to return to your own inner guidance system. That is also coming through majorly. So that's what makes it so fun though, and that's why having different decks is so nice, because there's different messages with every card. You know, like this one represents a spiritual adventure. You know, they can see quite a ways on the horizon, but there's wonder and fun. You know, and they're shrouded in this white, or maybe that's their hair. I think it's a cloak though. Just got this deck. I absolutely love it. Yeah, but I feel like it literally is letting love lead the way, like your inner self love and love for spirit. Yeah, so quite literally, like if you resonate with the Hermit card a lot, you know, like it could be resonating with the term like lone wolf energy. But also, this is someone who could quite literally develop into a mentor, you know, like if you really feel like you're going through like a lot of shadow work or constantly feeling like you're introspecting, it's probably because you're being developed to hold space for people who are going to be going through these lessons at some point, you know. So don't doubt where you're at, and really just kind of try to embrace all journeys. Love the Hermit energy, honestly. It's a good winner card. But I also think it's very much a card of becoming in tune with your subconscious mind, like uh, where you're going, and yeah, allowing your subconscious mind to kind of feel the way. Because a lot of times with the Hermit, it comes at a period where you're in this pause, and sometimes when you're in that pause, it's because you're in a gateway between two different places. And so sometimes you have to be very still during these times, because it can be very easy to misinterpret the yes and the no's, the intuition and the ego. And that's why with times with the Hermit, it's really, really necessary to slow down when it's coming out, to go within so you can listen to your own guiding systems and not be so easily influenced by the external things. Yeah. All right, thank you. I love you guys.